This island helped feed the world, yet the world left it in ruins. On a map, Banaba, once known as Ocean Island, barely looks unusual. A tiny island east of Nauru, now part of Kiribati, just over 6 square kilometers, small enough to disappear in the Pacific, but from a distance, the damage is easy to miss. Inside the island is a gaping wound, a landscape scraped open, jagged limestone, abandoned machinery, the remains of an island treated less like a home and more like a resource to be emptied. And the strange part is this: Banaba was not destroyed because it was useless. It was destroyed because it was valuable. Before most of the world even learned its name, something buried beneath Banaba had pulled it into a trade far bigger than the island itself. Not oil, not gold, not diamonds, just a rock valuable enough to change the fate of an island. This is phosphate, a pale rock that does not look powerful, but inside it was phosphorus, a nutrient crops need to grow. When soil runs low on phosphorus, harvests shrink. Food becomes harder and more expensive to grow. But phosphate could turn exhausted soil back into fertile ground. That was what made Banaba dangerous. Because once the world understood what was buried beneath the island, Banaba was no longer just a home. It was a prize, a future source of profit. And the fight over Banaba did not begin with guns. It began with something quieter, a deal. On May 3rd, 1900, a phosphate prospector named Albert Ellis arrived on Banaba. Within hours, he had found what outsiders were looking for: rich phosphate stone. And soon, an agreement followed, one that gave outsiders control over Banaba's phosphate for almost 1,000 years. The mining rights were reportedly secured for 999 years, for £50 a year. That number is the first clue, because this was not a normal deal between equal sides. On one side were Banaba's people. The elder who signed reportedly did not speak or read English. No translation for them had been brought, and the people being asked to give up access to the land could not have known what the phosphate beneath it would become. On the other side were outsiders who understood the value clearly. This rock could be turned into fertilizer, supporting farms, exports, companies, and governments thousands of kilometers away. To them, Banaba was becoming a calculation. How much phosphate was under the ground? How quickly could it be taken? How long could access be controlled? And those answers would be carved into the island itself. At first, the word mining makes the damage sound contained. A fenced-off site, a place separate from ordinary life. But on Banaba, the phosphate was spread through the island's surface. The mine was not one location. It was the ground itself. To reach the phosphate, the land had to be stripped away. Soil was removed, vegetation disappeared, and underneath it, the island revealed what extraction would leave behind. Jagged limestone, sharp coral pinnacles.
The water sources were destroyed, and now they can't grow anything in the soil.
I haven't been to the moon, but the way they explain it, I think Ocean Island looks like the moon.
Mining continued for decades from 1900 to the late 1970s, removing 22 million tons of land in the process. And by the time it ended, around 90% of Banaba's surface had been stripped away.
They destroy our ancestral graveyard, they crush them and put them into as phosphate.
From far away, those numbers could sound like progress. Greener fields, abundant harvests. But on Banaba, those same numbers meant something else. Empty ground, broken land, a homeland becoming harder to live in with every shipment that left. The more Banaba helped feed people far beyond the Pacific, the less it could remain a home for its own people. Every shipment had a destination. After the First World War, Banaba came under the British Phosphate Commissioners. Representatives from Britain, Australia, and New Zealand controlled the mining, sale, and distribution of its phosphate.
At the time and all the way until 1980, phosphate was seen as a matter of national security for Australia and New Zealand in particular. It was food security, it was agricultural security, it was national security. Every major government office had a file and had personnel who were keeping an eye on Banaba. That's how important it was to them.
Processed into superphosphate, it helped supply Australian agriculture and the pasture system behind New Zealand sheep, beef, and dairy farming.
If you've eaten a steak any time in the last century, that place is part of you.
That was the hidden connection. Banaba's surface was stripped away so farms overseas could keep growing. By one estimate, compensation for Banaba's people was less than 0.1% of the profits generated by the industries supported by the phosphate trade. An exploitative bargain almost impossible to defend, and the ugliest part was how easy it was to hide. The damage happened far from the people benefiting, on a tiny island most would never see. They saw fuller fields and better harvests, but hidden inside that abundance was land Banaba had given up piece by piece. As more of Banaba was stripped away, the question was no longer just where the phosphate was going. It was where its people were supposed to keep living. Then war scattered them even further. And after the Second World War, many were moved to Rabi Island in Fiji.
They move away from our homeland and live them here in Fiji so that they can destroy the land without us fighting for the land.
But Rabi was not separate from Banaba's story. It had been bought with phosphate royalties from the very island they had been forced to leave. That was the cruel irony. Yet Rabi did not solve the damage. It exposed it.
I remember other houses along this way, they look like they've all disappeared. So the two houses beside each other have gone, totally gone. There's no more land. Very sad.
They had not simply lost phosphate. They had been pushed away from a homeland carved up through contracts, commissions, and colonial control. Not by one dramatic eviction, but by a slower kind of removal. The land was taken first. Then the people were left with barren ground where their homeland once stood. Decades later, the fight reached the High Court in London, in a major case known as Tito versus Waddell. There, Banaba's story had to be translated into legal language. The 1928 Mining Ordinance, replanting obligations. The question was who, if anyone, could be made responsible for putting it back. Banaba's people were not only asking for money, they wanted parts of the mined-out land replanted with food-bearing trees, but by then, even restoration sounded almost absurd. Coconuts planted in pockets of soil between limestone pinnacles, roads built just to reach scattered plots, trees unlikely to fruit, small patches of repair on an island already carved open. That was the limit of the courtroom. But none of it could put the surface back. None of it could restore the gardens. None of it could turn the ruins back into a living landscape. The final product did not look violent. It looked like fertilizer, better soil, and bigger harvests. But behind that abundance was a small Pacific island being emptied out. Banaba was not destroyed because the world failed to see its value. It was destroyed because the world saw its value too clearly. It saw the rock, the harvests, everything Banaba could give, except the people who called it home. And when the shipments ended, Banaba was left with the part of the bargain no one overseas had to live with, the ruins of a homeland that helped feed people far beyond the Pacific, while its own people were left with almost nothing to stand on.